So today we're going to do the handover video on this Burstner Lyseo 727G. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you can see that you've got your fill-up points in here along with your AdBlue, which is just below. When your AdBlue is due, you'll just get a little warning symbol on the dash, which will just warn you that you need to top that AdBlue up. Opening up the passenger side, you can see that you've got your bonnet release catch, which is just located here. And just in the door sill, you'll also notice that you've got your tyre pressures. On all of your windows, you've got Remis cab blinds fitted. To operate these, all you'll need to do is simply pinch the plastic tab and pull them out like so, and let them connect up via the magnetic strip on the side. You've got these on all of your windows, as I mentioned, as well as the big windscreen at the front. Again, they simply pinch and slide out like so, and just let them connect via the magnetic strip in the middle. I personally find that if you lead these from the bottom instead of leading from the top, as you can see, they just push back nice and easily. If you pull them from the top, sometimes they can get stuck and jammed. Underneath the bonnet, you can see that your main jump start for your negative terminal is just located here underneath the sticker, as indicated here. And then for your positive terminal, there's just a little cap underneath here. It's a little bit difficult to see on the video, but there's a plus sign on there, which will just indicate where your positive terminal connects onto. And that's how you jump start the vehicle. They're of course the main things that you need to know, but just to point out a couple more things, you can see that you've got your engine oil here, with your brake disc fluid above that, your engine coolant next to that, and then right in the corner you can see you've got your washer fluid for the front windscreen. Move along to the side of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your entrance door into your habitation area. We'll hop on there shortly, and you can see that you've got your awning, which is located on the outside of the van. I'll send you a separate video showing you how to operate the awning. One thing to remember with the awning, if it is a windy day, just put the awning back in. You don't want to leave it out at night, and as I say, if it's windy, because any wind that comes underneath that, it's like having a massive sail on the side of the van. So if a bit of wind gets underneath it, it could potentially pull and tear the awning away from the van. Now next to your habitation door, you can see that you've got your gas barbecue point, and as you can see, with the cover removed, gains you access to the barbecue point itself. All you'll need to do is remove this cap, and then you'll have a piece of tube with a bayonet fitting in the end that can then connect into there, and then providing your gas is running through the vehicle, you can then turn this isolator switch over to obviously allow the gas to flow through. Now directly below the gas barbecue point is your cassette locker. In here is of course your cassette. Now before removing this, please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. I'll show you how that is done when we're on the inside of the van. And that will allow you to then push up on the orange tab and slide out like so. Now to empty this, all you'll need to do is turn out the funnel like so. Now you can see that the cap has been removed, that's somewhere in the vehicle, but you'll just need to remove a grey cap, and then using the orange button on the back, that will release an internal vacuum, allowing you to empty the entire contents of the cassette. Once you've done that, if you've got a bit of blue fluid that you use, you can stick that into that cap that goes back onto the funnel. That will break down the waste content in the cassette. Swivel the funnel back into place, and you can pop the cassette back in place. You will also notice that you've got this orange button here. This does swivel, as you can see. This should always stay in this position. This is what makes contact with the blade, which will allow you to open and close the cassette when obviously the cassette is in use. This should always stay in this position. If that is off slightly, it will jam, so please ensure it remains in that position. Once you've done that, all you'll need to do, pick the cassette back up, offer it back up in place, and slide it into position, and then lock up the cassette locker. Next to the locker, you can see that you've got your TV points here. You can have this wired up to the aerial. They don't come as standard with that. As you can see, there's a couple of aerial points here. What majority of customers use this for is a 230 volt socket, but just bear in mind that you will need a 230 volt adapter, as currently it's set up for a continental plug. Coming round to the rear of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your garage. In here there's a couple of inserts for the lower bed. One thing to mention is this is where your awning pole winder stores, and also this is fully heated and insulated if you're putting anything wet or damp in there. You've also got your tie down points on each side, which you can use with bungee cord to tie anything down during transit. On the back of the vehicle you can see your reversing camera is up at the top, which will just angle down to your lower bumper. And moving around to the other side, you've got another garage door for access on the other side. Moving along, we come to your fridge vents. Now this is of course where the fridge pulls its air from, so just bear in mind if it is a bit of a sunny day and the sun's beating down on this side of the van, if you can try and turn this away or keep it in the shade, it will just allow the fridge to run a little bit more efficiently. Now this is a domestic fridge. You can buy covers for these which just simply clip onto these points here. You only need them when you're storing the van during the winter time. Below your fridge vents of course is your 230 volt mains power outlet. So this is where you can plug in to gain 230 volt mains electric in the van, and that will allow you to use 230 volt in the vehicle. And as you can see, we first come to one of your first drain down points as indicated by the sticker, and underneath you'll see that there's a pipe here. This is for your wastewater drain down point. You'll have a handle which simply connects onto this bracket here, and you can then turn that to drain down the tank. Now when you're on site there'll be a big grid that you can drive over. Simply drive over that and turn that valve, and that will drain down the entire wastewater tank. Once you've done that, you can leave your wastewater tank open, because as you're travelling, all the vibrations of the road will ensure that that water makes its way out of the tank. Next up in here is your gas locker. This will hold 2 6 kg bottles. Obviously when you're travelling, please ensure that you don't turn your gas on when travelling. Only turn your gas on when you're stationary and you're using the vehicle. If you travel with gas on, as you can imagine, it's very dangerous, because if you're involved in a collision, could potentially set alight. So please only travel with gas when it's turned off. Next up, this particular vehicle has got an external shower point, and as you can see, with it open, it'll gain you access to the shower point itself, just like the barbecue point. You'll have a little adapter which just slots into here and clips in. That's for your shower head. You've then got the option of having it hot or cold, and then you've got a little switch here which will activate and allow the water to come through. Do bear in mind you will need your pump on for that to operate, and this uses your fresh water out of your freshwater tank. Below the shower point you can see that you've got your vent. This is in essence your chimney. It does get quite hot this, and this is for the heater in the vehicle. So just give this a wide berth. And then finally, to conclude the outside, you can see that you've got your convenience locker which is located here. Within your convenience locker you'll find that you've got your freshwater tank. To fill this up, all you'll need to do is remove this blue cap. Remove that, and using a food grade hose pipe you can then fill up the tank. This tank holds 120 litres of fresh water, and if you're wanting to clean out the tank, all you'll need to do is simply pull this red cap off and wipe the inside of it out. I don't personally recommend drinking out of the freshwater tank, or drinking directly out of the freshwater tank. You're fine if you're washing up or boiling the water. I'd personally take bottled water if you are drinking out, or if you are wanting to drink water, so just bear that in mind. Now, to drain this tank down, it's really easy. You've got this black knob on the top, and there's 2 settings with it. If you turn it halfway, there's like a little lug that you can actually feel in the pipe, which will allow you to drain the entire contents of the cassette down to 20 litres, as indicated by this sticker here. If you're wanting to drain the entire tank down, all you'll need to do is simply keep turning that little knob past that point until you can't turn it anymore, and that will drain down the entire 120 litres. That's designed as a quick drain down point because the manufacturer recommend, if you're travelling with water, only travel with 20 litres, really to do with payload and weight distribution, so just bear that in mind. One thing to know as well is you will have an overspill cap which just slots on here for when you're filling up this tank. That will just stop any water from going on the inside of the van. Next up is then your boiler drain down point, and this is your final drain down point in the vehicle. You can see that you've got 2 which are linked to the boiler, or 1 rather, and 1 that is for the everything beyond the boiler. So this little black black piece here is to drain down the boiler itself, and this is a frost protection valve. As you can see at the moment it is open. You know that because there's a little nib that's popped up on the inside of the diamond, and you can see there's a little blue tab that's popped out on the side. To seal this, all you'll need to do is simply turn the diamond like so and press that blue nib in, and that will seal the boiler. To drain this, all you need to do is turn that, and as you can see, the blue button pops out and the black nib returns up on the inside of the diamond, and that's how you drain down the boiler. If you're draining everything from the boiler beyond, you've got this little valve here. In the up position it is open, in the down position it is closed. So as I mentioned with your freshwater tank and your wastewater, when you've drained down the majority of your water on site, you can leave all your tanks open, including these points here, as that will just ensure that all that water makes its way out of the vehicle. Now, just coming back to this, as I mentioned, this is a frost protection valve and this reacts to temperature. So when it gets to a certain temperature, this will automatically drain its system of water. It often happens when you're not using the vehicle, when the vehicle is in hibernation, and say for example you've forgot to drain it down. So it's a really good fail-safe system to ensure that there's no water in the boiler over winter. However, what may happen if you've not used the vehicle in a while and you come to use the van, you may go to turn this. So you'll turn the diamond like so to seal it, and you'll go to press the blue button in on the side. But what may happen is when you go to press that button in, it keeps pinging out. The reason for that is it reacts to temperature. And it's basically, as I say, a fail-safe. It's stopping you from sealing the boiler because it thinks that it might potentially freeze. So with that in mind, all you'll need to do is jump on the inside of the van, turn your vehicle heating on, which I'll show you how to do later, warm this area up, and after about 30 minutes this area will be nice and warm, so you can then push that blue button in and seal the unit. Okie dokie, so now on the inside, as you can see, as you come through the habitation door, on the left side you've got your control panel. So the main control panel is really simple. You've got your main isolator button here that turns on and off everything on the inside of the vehicle, powers up your leisure batteries. You can see that your lights are turned on automatically there. At the top here you've got your leisure battery level. You can see we're nearly 100% there. And you've got your vehicle battery level, which is just below. All you'll need to do is simply hold them in and it'll show you the gauge and level on the dial here. On the other side you've got your freshwater level. As you can see, we've nothing in at the moment, so there's no reading on the dial. And then below you've got your wastewater level. You've got a little bit in the tank at the moment, and you can see it just shows you your level here. And then finally you've got a little button here that will activate your pump. Now I won't leave that on because we've no fresh water in the tank, but of course you'll need to only run that when you've got fresh water in the tank. If you run that for a long period, it will eventually burn out the pump. So only run that when there's fresh water in the tank. Once you've got fresh water, just simply press that button and then go to all of your taps, including your shower, and then turn them on and turn them to hot. What that will do is it'll pull fresh water from the fresh water tank into the boiler and then out of the tap. It'll spurt and splutter, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Please ensure, of course, it is all sealed before doing this, or else it just won't pressurise. Once you've done that, flick it over to cold and do the exact same. It'll again pull through the fresh water through the hose and out to the tap, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system. Now once you've done that, you can leave your pump on the panel, because each of these taps have got something called the micro switch on, which will activate and deactivate the pump whenever you need it. So you can just simply leave that pump on once it's all pressurised. The only time you need to turn that pump off is when you've got no water in the van. Moving on from the main control panel, you've then got your control panel for your heating. All you'll need to do to turn this on is simply hold it on, and then you're on. Okie dokie, I've just got a better angle now. Everything below the line is what you want to select. So if I click this, firstly you've got your vehicle temperature. Use the dial, which is just here, to press in and flick through the temperature. So you can take this all the way up to 30 degrees should you want to, and that's for your vehicle temperature. You've then got the temperature for the water. You can either have it on Eco, Hot or Boost. Eco is approximately 40 degrees, Hot is approximately 70 degrees, and Boost will in essence boost the heating and concentrate on heating the water rather than the vehicle itself. Next up, you've then got your fuel. So you can either run this system off gas, Mix 1, which is mixture of gas and 1 kilowatt electric, Mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and 2 kilowatt electric, EL1, which is purely 1 kilowatt electric, or EL2, which is purely 2 kilowatt electric. So if you're on a site and you're on a campsite, you're plugged in, you'll tend to run it off the EL2. Certain campsites may limit you to run it off EL1, especially in France, they don't provide you with much power. In that case, this vehicle is going to struggle being heated on just 1 kilowatt electric, especially a vehicle of this size. So what I'd recommend is just simply go back into the fuel there, simply either running it off gas or running it off mix 1. And then of course when you're wild camping, you can run it purely off gas. Next up, you've then got your fan speed. At the moment, because I've nothing selected, it's only giving me the option of vent, which will ventilate the air in the van. Once I've got a fuel selected and I've set up the heating, it will give me the option of high or boost, which will intensify the fan, and the boost option works the exact same like it does on the water, but instead of heating the water, it works vice versa. It'll heat and concentrate on heating the van itself, and that lasts about half an hour. So they're the main controls that you need to know. Underneath, you've then got the option of setting a timer should you want it. Next up, you can see you've then got a timer, your time on the control panel, and then finally in here you've got your settings panel where you can reset the panel should you need to. Now the times that you'll need to reset the panel is if, for example, you ever get an error code. Now you'll get an error code, for example, if you've selected a fuel that you haven't got. Now, as I'm not plugged in today, I'm only running the vehicle off 12 volt. If I was to select gas, for example, I've no gas in the van, what will happen is you'll get an error code that will pop up on the screen, and it'll begin to flash. Once you've done that, once you've got that error code, just go into your settings panel and click reset. It'll flicker the screen and then it'll come back on in about 20 seconds. However, you do need to wait a full 20 minutes for that to be fully reset. Just bear that in mind, and then you're good to go. But please ensure that you're always selecting a fuel that you've got to avoid that option, or that issue rather. To turn this panel off, all you'll need to do is hold this button in, and you can see it just says off there, and then you're good to go. What I'd recommend is before unplugging any electrics or turning your gas off, to turn this panel off before you do so, because if you don't do that, again this panel will fault. If you remove the fuel away from what's powering the system, you'll get an error code, so next time you come to use it there'll be an error code, so you'll need to reset the entire system. So just always turn that off before removing any fuel in the vehicle. You can also see above here, this vehicle has got motorhome Wi-Fi fitted. Now I'll show you more of this on the day, but you'll need a little SIM card that can just go into the back of here, and then once this is powered up, you just need to find your password on here, and then you can connect to your Wi-Fi. But as I say, I'll show you how that operates on the day. So directly underneath here, you've got your Dometic fridge. Now this is a 3-way fridge, which means there's 3 ways to power it. So you can either run it off your 12 volt leisure battery, your gas, or your 230 volt electric. And you can see that the icons are just here. Your 12 volt battery is there for when you're travelling, your gas is located there for when you're wild camping with the van, and then when you're plugged into 230 volt electric, you can run it off the plug sign as indicated there. Now the nice thing with this is you've got a little auto feature here. So select auto, and that will automatically assign whichever fuel you've got supplied to the fridge, which is quite a nice option to have. So then that way you won't get a fault code. A little bit like what we said about the heater, you want to make sure that you're selecting a fuel that you've got to avoid any faults. If you do get a fault, this will start lighting up, this little warning symbol, so you'll need to reset the fridge. If you do have that issue, just consult a technician, and we'll be able to advise how that can be done. On the other side, you've then got the option of temperature, so you can select through this using this button here, and you've got the mode as well to decide whether you want to recirculate the air in the fridge. To turn this on, simply press this button like so. It'll take a minute and you can see it's all powered up. Now automatically it's showing me it's trying to run it off gas. Obviously this won't work because we've no gas in the vehicle, so I'll turn that off quickly to avoid any error, and just do that by holding that button in. Now, one thing to know about these fuels is a lot of people think that they can run the fridge off the 12-volt leisure battery when they're wild camping. However, that isn't the case. You can only run the fridge off the 12-volt leisure battery with the ignition on. The reason for it is this vehicle has got a built-in alternator, so when you're travelling down the road, that vehicle battery is sending power through the alternator, which will send it through the fridge and will allow you to power up the fridge. If you was to use your 12-volt leisure battery when you're wild camping, it would simply pull so much power away from your battery, you'd be left with nothing. So when you're wild camping, it's purely gas, and when you're travelling, it's purely 12 volts. But as I say, if you leave it on that automatic function, it will just automatically assign whichever fuel you've got. Moving round into the kitchen area, you can see that you've got your hobs here, along with your sink. We've spoken obviously about priming your system, so you're alright with that. You've then got your oven and grill, which is just below. And above here, you've got your isolation valves. These isolate certain areas of the vehicle. Just leave them in this position. They're only for the technicians when working on the vehicle to isolate certain points of the van. So just leave that as it is. Now directly below the oven and grill, you can see that you've got your RCD breaker in here. So the vehicle ever trips, you just need to come to this point. And as you can see, opening that up, it's nice and easy to access. Moving on from the kitchen, you can see you've got a really good bit of storage above, either side in fact, which is a great bit of storage, as well as some lighting up at the top here. On all of your windows, you've got blackout blinds, as you can see, and you've also got fly screens that just pull down. To open these windows, all you'll need to do is simply pull the levers up and then push the window out like so. And they're just on a little clicking mechanism. As you can see, they just hold it into place. Just be slow when you're doing this to let it click and hold into place. And then when you want it all the way down, simply push it all the way up and down it comes. Now you can put it on venting should you want to on these windows. There's a little gap here which just allows a bit of airflow to come through the vehicle. But please ensure that when you're travelling, these are of course sealed. To do that, pull them all the way in and make sure that they are fitted into place just past that stop block there. This goes to the same on your skylights. Now you've got a skylight directly above your lounge here. Again, all you'll need to do to open this is press this in and slide this open, and then lock it into position for when you're travelling. As you can see, I've just turned the lights on just to give us a little bit more light. We're now into your lounge area. Currently this is set up for just 2 people, because you can only travel with the 2 people at the front. However, this particular vehicle has got the ability to take additional passengers. I'll show you how that can be done. As you can see, all I've done is remove the backrest. I've then pushed this seat into place, and then all you'll need to do is flick this up. As you can see, that then flicks up into place, and then you've got a little lever down here that you just push and drop that into place like so. This allows for the passenger to have enough leg space for when they're travelling. As you can see, I've then just pulled the backrest out to the garage and popped it into place. This backrest just lines up with the chassis mounts here, as you can see. And all you need to do is just pop that into place like so, and then you can then tighten that into position. And as you can see, once the backrest has been secured into place, you can then just pop on the rear backrest, and then you're good to go. You've got your seat belt, which will pull across here. Your other buckle is just actually located underneath there, so you can of course pull that out, and you can get yourself belted in. It's the same again for the other side. And as you can see, with the backrest stored away, you can then return to the nice big lounge that you've got. Now for your table in the middle, this particular van has got the dinette to berth kit. This allows you to convert this area into a bed should you ever need to. To drop this table into place, you've got this little lever. You just need to pull that and then apply some pressure and weight on the top of the table, and that will lock it into position. And just like that, you can see that the tabletop has just been lowered. You've then got this little support here, which allows you to flip out the table and give it a bit of support. And you've got these little feet that just drop down like so. Let them take the weight of the table, and then you can open up the table and pop the cushions into place. And just like so, with the table open, your cushions are ready to pop on, and that will act as your base. What I'd personally recommend is using a mattress topper just to even out the surface. It'll just remove any of the contours from the seats and just provide a nice surface and get rid of them little gaps in between the cushions. Now, before we move on from the front area, one thing to bear in mind is your e-box and your fuses are located underneath the passenger seat. There's just a front grille there which you can unclip and you can access them there. What I personally recommend is taking some spare fuses with you, so if the vehicle ever trips at some point, you can simply replace the fuse. Now, they are just normal generic fuses, you can just pick them up from Halford should you need to. Moving past your kitchen and through to the rear of the vehicle, in the middle of the van you've got your bathroom area. So you can see that you've got your shower on one side. Now, we've discussed obviously about priming your system for that. One thing to mention is you've also got this little towel rail here that just pops down, so you can hang your towels on there, or if you've got any wet coats, you can just hang them on there. And on the other side, you've got your bathroom area. You can see this door does pull across quite handily. You've got another one here for the bedroom area as well to separate it and create a little bit of an ensuite. On the other side, as I mentioned, this is where your bathroom is. For your toilet, like I mentioned on the outside, the main thing that you need to know is how to open and close the blade. The blade is this piece of plastic here, and it will allow you to close and open the cassette. So when in use, just push it away from you to open the cassette so all the waste can drop into the cassette toilet. Once you've done that, press the blue button on the top there. That will activate the flush and will flush the entire system into the cassette. Once you've done that, you need to close the blade for two reasons. That will stop any odours from escaping, and two, it will get you into the habit of having that blade closed, so every time you come to remove the cassette, it doesn't get jammed. Now, coming back up here, for this blue button, as I mentioned, that will activate your flush. Now, you do need your pump on for that to operate, and you will get a little red light on here to indicate when the cassette is full and when it needs emptying. So with the door shut, moving on from the bathroom, you've then got your bedroom area at the back with your two single beds. You have got this slide out drawer that will just help you up and climb into your bed, with a little bit of storage as well, which is dead handy. You've also some storage on this side and in here. So with that pushed in and the door open, you can see that you've got a hanging rail here that just slides out, and on the other side you've got a pull out drawer for all your clothes, which just slots in nicely. You've got a 230 volt plug socket just above there as well. As I mentioned on the outside, that will of course only work, as well as all your other 230 volt plugs, when you're only plugged into 240 volts on the campsite. And then all above you've got, as you can see, a really nice bit of storage. Now that concludes the handover video on this 727G Burstner. I hope you enjoyed.